We're so pumped to have this guest on right now. Born and raised in Saskatoon, he's a Stanley Cup Champ for Chicago Blackhawks. He's played over 1,000 pro games, including 659 in the NHL over 16 years. Please welcome Brent Sopel. How are you, buddy?
Good. How are you doing?
We're good, man. We're good. Thanks for asking. Mom Terry, by the way, this is my colleague John. He's more of the hockey guy. You can tell by the salad. He's sick salad. I always say he has the best salad in the league. Thanks for coming on, man. Honestly, it's when we reached out to you guys and your manager Mike to have you on, I was pumped because I remember your time in Montreal. Your time in Montreal was fun because it was kind of a point where the Habs were trying to go for it, you know, and they went and they got big Brent Sopel and Brent Sopel.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, but honestly, for the Puritans, I mean, we'll talk about Montreal hockey media, but when you talk about the Puritans, like I like your style of play. I've always have somebody that's just, you might not show up on the stat sheet, but there's so many other things that go along with the game, and I'm sure John can attest to it too. And it was fun to see that kind of grit come to Montreal because we didn't have it for a long time.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I always say you win Stanley Cups with your third and fourth line and your 4, 5, 6, 7 D-men. And those are the guys that don't get the accolades. Your first line, second line, those guys are putting up the points and the goalies, but it's the true hockey players that people don't recognize, or any sport. You talk about football. The guys that don't take the accolades, the quarterback, the wide receivers. But how does that quarterback get time? It's those it's the old linemen, but they don't get the accolades. But you need all those to make it work. So I always say face for radio, but did what I had to do, and here I am today.
I have the face of radio too, man. It's you know what I mean?
Honestly, anybody that can block 3 Weber bombs, you want to be their teammate. So
yeah, I'm still feeling the pain from him, but that's like
what was the worst slap shot you ever took?
It wasn't, honestly, it wasn't how hard it was. It was where it hit.
Yeah.
The
ankle,
the inside of the knee
bone.
was, Ovechkin shattered the tip of my finger.
Okay.
From the inside nail all the way down. I had to get stitches there. If anybody knows how many nerve endings are there, let me tell you, I almost punched the doctor in the face when he was stitching me up. But, it's just when it hits, where it finds a spot where it hits a nerve. And the worst one was, inside the knee. I go, everybody knows I go down sideways and we go whole go numb. And now, for the rest of the game, you basically got a numb leg. So,
yeah.
It feels great, let me tell you. It's not so hard as it is. The hard ones hurt. I got a few deflected my face. I think I was in St. Louis. It hit me in the visor, bleeding everywhere. But again, that's why I got a face for radio. Stuck it out there to win the Stanley Cup, and I eventually did.
What was that like in 2010 when you guys won?
It was season. Obviously, I won it a million times on the outdoor rink back in Saskatchewan.
Of course, yeah.
We all have that, all the Canadian kids. So, it's still really, it is surreal. You take a look at the league. There's guys in the Hall of Fame that ever won it. To be one of those guys that have their name on it and have my name visually on the thing for, I think it's 60 years or 62 years before they'll take that piece off. And for my family, for my kids, to know that they'll always be able to see my name no matter when I die. That's for family legacy. No doubt to my family ever played hockey. So, for me to win it, but we're having this conversation because I want it, and it's given me a lot of platform to do the things that I truly want to do.
Absolutely.
Just a quick question for you, Brent. You mentioned that on that day you were unusually calm. Like when you were in that moment, could you feel that, or was that something you kind of noticed with hindsight afterwards?
As a group, we were pretty calm. And, let's, like for an example, everybody's talking about, last year, Tampa Bay Lightning, getting swept and coming in winning it. Yeah, I think if we backtracked, as far back as they started taking the stats, I think, no team came in and won immediately. You needed to, because it's all about, the highs and lows. It's, and everybody talks about, oh, you're giving me the cliche answer. No, it's, it's the cliche because it's the truth. And the team who can stay the calmest, you go back to, Nashville series, Marion Hossa with 3 minutes left takes a 5-minute major. We're losing. We go shorthanded. We got it tied up with like 10 seconds left just to tie the game to go in overtime. So you have to stay calm. And the whole group really was, in Philadelphia in Game 6, they tied up late. I think there's 4 minutes left or 3 minutes left, and going the intermission, I said a couple things, and we go back out there and do our things. So we learned from our mistakes the year before, losing the conference final against Detroit. You learn how to handle your emotions, but the only way you can learn is by being there. So most teams usually have hiccups along the way before they finally, find a way to win. Look at Tampa Bay; they lost in 15 to Chicago in Game 6, and then that's the only way you learn, by being in that situation. You can watch as many videos you want, but they had to go through that to learn how to play a different style, how to play playoff hockey, the way they did this year.
Back then was the Western Conference was nuts, and Chicago versus Vancouver seemed to be like this rivalry that was building. And having played for both teams, so you were on Chicago and you guys took them out, and was that kind of bittersweet? I know you're a West Coast kid. Is that something that, were you a Canucks fan growing up? What was it?
You know what? I was a Montreal fan, but I was more, people always say, who's your favorite? I'm like, I admired anybody who was in the league. I didn't matter if you're a fourth line guy or goalie or D-man. You were there. I wasn't. So I was admiring. Who didn't watch Hockey Night Canada Saturday night?
Yeah, exactly.
Grew up in Saskatchewan. The odd trip my parents would treat me to going up to Edmonton or going up to Calgary to see a game. As a kid. So I just admired them all. They were there. I wasn't. So it didn't matter who you were or what you were. I looked up to them, but it was tough going into Vancouver. No matter when you get traded, you got friends there, and I was drafted by Vancouver, and they gave me the opportunity to break in the league, and I ended up being with the organization. I think it was almost 10 years by the time I was drafted, and going back to junior for a couple of years, and so I had a lot of friends, and I was rookies with the Sedin twins, so it was hard for me going back in, into that place, knowing that somebody found me friends, and instead of taking the first left in the Canucks dressing room, I had to go a little bit farther to the visitors dressing room. So it wasn't bittersweet. Obviously my goal was the Hawks and that team, and that's why I sacrificed myself. But it's still, you had a lot of friends. I knew all the security guards. It was, it was awkward.
What was it like after that, winning the Stanley Cup, going to Atlanta, going to a city that was kind of fairly new in hockey at the time? They were probably just 10 years old. What was that experience like in Atlanta? What was the hockey? Was it a hockey town? Like, did they like it? I know Kovalchuk sold a lot of uniforms.
Atlanta was my favorite city to play in, honestly.
Yeah.
It was the South. So the Southern hospitality, and the weather was warm. I think it was, as Canadians, I think it was about plus 10 all the time. So I was used to the warmer weather. Obviously in Vancouver, I played in LA. So I loved Atlanta. We had a pretty good team there. The fans were great. Just like anybody else. Nashville, they had to learn a game. Because it was new. In Carolina, they had to learn the game. In Tampa and Florida, but when you're in a warmer market, especially Atlanta's biggest city, that airport's number one busiest airport in the world. You got to be good every night.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't be average. You have to be good when you're competing against every other sports team. The Hawks and the Falcons. And in the South, college football. Georgia Tech is a stone throw away. So you've got to be great every single night. So I enjoyed my time in Atlanta, and obviously ended up with you guys at the end of the run in Montreal.
We loved you.
Oh yeah.
I grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan. I was a Patrick Waugh fan, growing up in my basement. The basement wasn't finished, so I always take my blocker and catcher, because I was always playing net, outside. And I took a golf ball and would take a slap shot at the cement wall and turn my stick over, and I was goalie down. What kid does that? You're half next up when you're taking slap shots at a golf ball with a golf ball at a cement wall.
On a cement wall, taking it to the face. Yeah.
All the time.
That's why you could take a Weber bomb, because you were so used to taking Tiger Woods bombs to the face.
Yeah, I trained myself to be the idiot to stand in front of it. So You know, it was growing up, that was me, completely out there.
Sorry, Terry. I just wanted to ask one question before we get into Montreal, because I'm sure we'll get lost in Montreal for a bit.
Yeah, I think so.
You mentioned oftentimes you played injured a lot, blocked a lot of shots, but there was one game you missed, and I have to get the facts on this. You missed a game because you bent over to pick up a cracker for your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know, one, what kind of cracker was it? And two, is it a cracker? Are crackers your kryptonite? Because that's
yeah, you Canadian fans love that one, but so I've had three. I'm still living with it. I've got 3 herniated discs in my back.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't realize it was that bad.
So I started having the problem in high school. So I've been living with for 30 years. So I remember basically walking through the hallways bent over, like almost on my hands and knees in high school because my back was locked up. So I don't know if you guys ever had back problem. It does what it wants when it wants.
Whenever it wants.
And
just
and that's I probably played 25, 30 games with my back out in the NHL with my back out of place.
Yeah.
Oof.
If you're in the KHL, you just take some Russian gas and you're good, right?
Oh, I actually, I did that a few times, no question about it. And I played with my back in a place, there too. I was just, if you don't have a back problem, it did what it was. And now it's like I said, I was holding my daughter and, she was eating a cracker and it dropped. And so it didn't matter if it was a cracker, it could have been a boulder. It was just the way my back was that time. And, I've got a cane in my house that I keep with me when it goes out of place, so this is, nothing new. It goes out on me. I know how to put it back into place, but I had to play, Vancouver wanted me to rest it, because we had a good team. We had a shot to go a little while, so, I didn't play game 1, but, play the rest of it. It was still out of place. I think I played the whole first round with my back out of place.
That was nuts, man. I mean, there was no doubt you were 90%, 99% of the time, you're probably one of the toughest guys on the ice, the guys that are going to play through it. And then to hear like a cracker, like that's the part of Montreal media that just like,
no, it's not Montreal media. It's El Vino. I can't stand the guy.
Okay, there you go.
Because he went through me under the bus.
Yeah.
Oh. He came in to me and said, we didn't see that. He came in and, he's a guy, I got back problems too, and literally walks out and tells the media. Why? You wouldn't do that for anybody else. You didn't like me? It's fine. I don't like you. But, he's the one that started all this. Since when does somebody say anything in playoffs about an injury?
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. True. It's always he'll be fine or he's getting
or it's always super ambiguous too.
Upper body, lower
exactly.
body.
And that was lower body and upper body was back then too. But he didn't like me. I didn't like him. He threw me under the bus. So everybody likes him as a coach. I can't stand him.
Is there any so actually it's a good question. So who's your favorite coach that you played for? You played for some legends.
Did you yeah, I got you. Right.
Who's your favorite coach?
I'll give Montreal media a break on that one.
That's okay.
All media, ran with that, and right? Why wouldn't they when that was handed to him by the coach? So,
good point,
I always laugh when I hear it. It gets brought up, but
I honestly saw that and I thought that there was a funnier story behind it, so that's what I was trying to go for. I apologize.
No apologies. That was life, and I'll go with the Ritz cracker. I think that's what it was.
Ritz cracker, it's a good one. If you're gonna bend down for a cracker, it's gonna be a Ritz cracker. Right?
Absolutely, got to go big or go home.
So, who's your favorite coach that you've had? You've had some legends in your career.
Yeah, I got to go back to obviously Mark Crawford and Brian Burke. In Vancouver, Brian Burke was the GM and Mark Crawford. He rode me hard. But they gave me the opportunity. You don't get an opportunity to play in the NHL and be as long in the NHL as long as I did without people liking you. And I had two Brian Burke, was a GM, was up front. Everybody knows Brian, tells you the way it is, and he would call me on the trade deadline and say, "Hey, Sopes, your name's out there. I'm not trading you, but if something comes where I have to, I'm going to." Just complete, complete man, complete respectful. You didn't have to do that. Nobody else does it.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. Brian was amazing. He to make that phone call and around the trade deadline when he's got his phone blowing up. So the respect I have for him. For doing that, immense, amazing. Guys don't do that. And, you've got here in Chicago, Bowman, who doesn't even have the respect to talk to, he's going to go do a rebuild, doesn't have the respect to talk to, some of his core players that won him 3 Stanley Cups. So that just tells you where Brian Burke is on the level. Amazing. And then Crawford, Mark Crawford, he rode me and we butted our heads, but he got the best out of me. And, he found ways to get my wires to cross. And that's what people don't understand. As a coaching, you've got to understand how each player reacts. Coaching is balancing 23 personalities. Maybe Brent Sopel needs his hand held and walk down the hallway after a game and say, hey, this is what I need to do. Maybe it's, going to the media and, calling me out in the media. Maybe, every guy is different. And, Mark found a way to get the most out of me. And, I think I played probably half my NHL games for him. So, absolutely amazing. And, obviously Joel Quenneville, a second winningest coach of history. And what's Joel, again, he could balance personalities. He knew when guys are going, but, the respect level was there. And, that was key. He respected the dressing room. He was never in there. That was our space. He always said, unless we're having a meeting or something like that. So, the respect was back and forth where, he let us do what we wanted to do and what we needed to do. And, in return, when it was time to go to work, time to go to war, we went to war.
I've always wanted Mark Crawford to come to Montreal because he had that the edge. Did he ever kick you on the bench? I hear rumors of him kicking players on the bench to get on the ice.
Yeah, again, he was intense.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Back in the day, you got a lot of these stories come. Things were okay back then.
Yeah, exactly.
If the three of us could go, would go back and look at our lives, there's a lot of things we could change.
100%. Yeah.
And a lot of things were okay back then.
Mm-hmm.
The words that were used or the way it was were or delivered or that was okay back then. Now it's not. So you look at you look as a man, as a coach, are they still coaching that same way or have they evolved? Evolved as a person and a coach. And Mark Crawford was coaching up until last year. I'm not sure if he might be in the league this year. So you've got to give him all the credit in the world to be still coaching. Joel Quenneville still coaching. They've evolved as men and as coaches to still be around the league. I'd really like to see how many wins Mark Crawford has on the all-time list. He's got to be way up there, probably top 5.
Well, Mark Crawford, yeah, for sure. I mean, he's had a lot of success, especially in Colorado. Crow was there for a long time and very successful, John.
I'm not sure Montreal could handle Crow.
No way. But he speaks French, so maybe.
Yeah,
that's what's important here.
And that's the hard part with Montreal is that they're always looking for that French connection. Now, does that give you the best candidate for the job?
Not always.
Not always. So. That's the hard part when you go into a draft. You always, if you're picking 5th overall, you're picking the best player. So that's the hard part. With Montreal, I know they always want that French connection, and I understand that clearly. Don't think I don't. But do you want the best candidate for that position? Because that gives your team the best chance to win.
Exactly.
Is how I look at it. It doesn't matter if you're Russian or Czechoslovakian or Swedish or Finnish or, they're there. I went to Russia and played for 3 years. They didn't care I was, Canadian. Did that give them the best chance to win that night? So that's how it's looked at, and in Montreal, obviously, it gets kind of skewed sometimes because of it. And I think that really, it hurts them. You talk about the draft. They're always looking for that French. Does that give you, this is the friend. Yeah, Lafreniere is number 1. No, that's clear cut. But who's that next player? Who's that best guy to pick at that time? Is there that French connection? No, okay, that's fine. We can't get it every time. We can't be women and have our cake and eat it all the time.
Exactly. And part of the problem is that we used to be able to. So some of the older fans remember the time when Montreal had first priority to every French-born player. So and you're exactly right.
Look at the banners, all the retired numbers.
Yeah, well, exactly. They're like, "Oh, Brent, what number do you want?" I'm like, "What are my options?" No,
5's taken. Yeah.
Like, do I have to go with double, triple zero, or what? So, it's kind of like Chicago too. Montreal, fans are pissed off. I'm like, you won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years. they threw out the word dynasty around here. And I said, to get that, you've got to give up picks. You got to give up prospects. So my problem with the Chicago Blackhawks, if they would have been men about it and told the fans a year ago and said, hey, listen, we're in a transition. We got to rebuild. They said, do you want us to be competitive every year and not win three cups, or have some downtime and win 3 cups? And, same thing with Montreal. They've done nothing but win. 24 years in a row making the playoffs. Like those numbers are just ridiculous, out of this world. So they're used to a certain way. And I get it. The older fans, we used to get this and used to. Unfortunately, we're not. But, trying to build and trying to get back to that point of having that, they don't just hand it to you. The reason why they had all those years of success and all the cups is because they were good. Now you have to get back there on a nightly basis. And I think that goes back to the point we were talking about. Pick the best player, not if there's a connection or not.
Absolutely.
Yep.
John, you had a question about a time in Vancouver. I think you wrote it down.
Oh no, the time in Vancouver was the cracker.
Was the cracker one? Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But
So
if I can, just quickly, I wanted to ask. I've been to one Chicago Blackhawks game in my life, and the coolest moment by far, and you must have experienced this, was the national anthem.
Yeah. No question.
I'm not even. It must be for you too. I'm not American, obviously, but when the national anthem was over, I was ready to run through a wall.
What's so special about it?
They cheer as loud as they can.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the only. I think it's the only building, only place in the world where that happens. I played in Russia. I played in Kazakhstan, Latvia. Everybody stands for the flag. Everybody, but nobody cheers.
Yeah.
So during the anthem, they're just going nuts.
Going nuts.
Oh,
it's
really?
amazing. It's amazing.
You should.
I like that.
It's again. It's awesome. You cheer your country, and so then it's funny how everything works out. My first NHL game was here in Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm standing on the blue line, and I'm all excited. My first game, I look across the blue line like, Bob Probert started good. I'm gonna die tonight. So thank God. But so that time there's like 5,000 people. I'm like, I'm kind of looking around. There's nobody here, but they're cheering. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
So there's no question. When you go into playoffs, you couldn't hear yourself talk during the anthem. It was that loud.
Yeah. So before we get into your current life, what was your favorite place to eat in Montreal? I'm a big foodie over here, and we have some good restaurants. What was your place to go out with the boys and get after it?
We had a couple. What was that? I don't know what I did. I woke up like 3 hours ago. I don't even know what I did this morning. So, everywhere we went, I don't think I had a bad meal when I was there. I was in the hotel the whole time. Okay. So I had to go out every meal.
Yeah.
I'm not a foodie, but the food was good. No matter I didn't have one bad. I had a great experience. Everything in Montreal was great, other than losing, obviously. In the game to Boston, and then them winning it obviously hurts, but. I think I ended up losing to the eventual Stanley Cup winner 5 times in my career.
Oh, really? Once. Well, there was Boston that year, right? 2011.
Yeah.
Anaheim against Chicago. Vancouver.
That was in that second round. I was here with the Cracker.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Detroit. So
okay.
Nick, the long from Nick Lidstrom.
Yeah.
From the red line goal.
Yeah.
He shot it around me. So he's the one that shot it around. He shot it around me. So I'm a highlight reel on that one. Colorado when Bork won.
Okay.
Yeah. Jesus.
You've been
some real serious name drops here. I like this.
Yeah. So I was on the wrong side a number of times. Thank God I found the way to get on the right side one time.
You're on the right side one time. That's all that matters, right?
That's all that matters.
So you're retired now. You're living in Chicago?
I'm actually living in Florida. Back in Chicago right now for Christmas, and started my own business and my own charity foundation. And I think everybody saw my documentary talking about my dyslexia, and that's my focus. The Brent Sopel Foundation is what I focus on from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, knowing that there's kids struggling the way I did, and especially now with the pandemic, and not only be able, everywhere is different. Some kids aren't going to school at all, some are going halftime, all the craziness. So just it hurts my heart knowing that there's kids struggling the way I did, in the world.
John had a question about the kids.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to talk. So in the video that you mentioned, there's two kids. There's Kate Oliver and Jack Rodman. They both mentioned about your relationship with them and what it was like to hear from you and reach out. So I just wanted to hear, what was it like for you to hear how you impacted guys like that and how you continue to impact kids like that?
We'll go back a little bit. We're talking about Mark Crawford. Well, Mark Crawford's brother is best friends with Jack's dad, Jack Rodman's dad. So that's how the connection came about, is that he reached out he got my number from Mark and reached out. So, Cade and I talk every week. Jack and I talk. I talk about in the documentary, I don't care who you are. You're a kid, you deserve a chance in life. And it doesn't, I don't care where who you are, who you're friends with, what you are. Dyslexia doesn't discriminate in race, color, gender, what religion, what country. I'll say it again, I don't want a kid to feel the way I do every day. If I can catch and help them get diagnosed with dyslexia at a young age, kind of like cancer. The earlier you get it, the better. And dyslexia is the same way. If I would have found out when I was 7 years old, I wouldn't have the scars I have when I found out when I was 33. So, Cade and Jack, great kids, amazing kids. Talk to them. They're like my own kids. But it doesn't matter who you are. I'll always try and help any way I can. I just, like I said, I repeat myself, but if I can prevent a kid feeling the way I do, it's a success.
Do you think that if you had diagnosed it earlier and you had kind of known about it, you think it would have changed your path in your career, or whatever the case?
No, you probably would have changed it a little bit. I played as long as I did in the league because of my dyslexia. Mm-hmm. You talk about being downstairs, shooting golf balls at the wall, because I avoided, schoolwork. I avoided reading. I've never read a book in my life. So some kid maybe, playing a game and reading. That wasn't me. I'm going to go on the ice or the outdoor rink, or I'm going to go downstairs and shoot. So I played as long as I did because of my dyslexia, but also my scars are as, open and wide as they are right now, because I didn't find out, until I was 33. And, dyslexia is part of mental health. It's because you can't see it. And, if you're blind, or if you're handicapped, or you're in a wheelchair, you're going to get the support that you deserve. We're the same way, but we don't get what we deserve because nobody can see it. And that's, and that is the hardest part. The three words that I heard growing up: you're dumb, stupid, and lazy. Because that's what everybody thinks you are. They can't get inside your brain because we're born with the right brain wired differently. And that's a hard part to express how I feel to a non-dyslexic. I'll put it this way. It's like lane in a bowling alley. Lane 1 is guys, lane 2 is girls, lane 3 is dyslexic guys, lane 4 is dyslexic. 3 and 4 can mold into 1 and 2. We got an idea. We know what's going on in your world. We understand what you're doing, how you're doing it. But you guys have no idea what we're going through on a daily basis. So it's hard enough to be a kid and explain yourself. It's hard enough for me to be almost 44 years old and explain myself. Never mind trying to be an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old and when you don't know yourself, so I'm just trying to bring it to the forefront and everybody know that it's not a learning disorder. It's a learning difference, but we're not educated enough to know the difference.
Absolutely. It's tough. And especially if you can't understand it. And the only way, the best way is to watch your YouTube clip. If you hadn't seen it at the end, you kind of just do like the mixing of the letters and stuff like that. And it shows you, it's like, if this is what they see, it's impossible to get ahead in school.
It's, the most, obviously the severity of dyslexia, most severe dyslexic will never read a day in their life.
It's impossible.
Because the sentences and the letters are dancing. They're like moving. So how do you do that?
Yeah.
You don't, so it's just trying to get, but, obviously I've got skills, like other, so my spatial awareness. So you talk about blocking shots. I had to be willing to get hurt, but why was I so good at it? It's because I knew my spatial awareness, meaning I knew where the net was. If you watch an NHL game, there's a lot of shots that don't get blocked. I'm in the way, but I'm not, I'm there, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
Right? That wasn't me. If I was there and I didn't block it, they missed the net.
Yeah.
Because 50% of people in prison in the world are dyslexic. But also in the same breath, 50% of people that work at NASA are dyslexic. So that spatial awareness, that 3D vision is, so it can be an asset if we find out at a young age.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can foster it too. Jacques Demers was dyslexic too, I think, right? Is there any other famous people that you know of that have kind of reached out or not?
You know what? There, in the hockey world, no. I think, I always say myself personally, less than 20% of the world really knows exactly what we're going through. And 10% of the world are embarrassed. So there's a lot of embarrassment that goes with it. I had a person reach out to me yesterday, actually, helping them with their son, and said, "Listen, my friend's daughter might have it. Would you talk to her?" Well, the mom wouldn't even get on the phone with me. He was too embarrassed. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, So, Tom Cruise has this, Jennifer Aniston, Kobe Bryant. Everybody talks about how great Kobe was. Guess why was he great? He's dyslexic. Nobody talks about that. Everybody knows Robin Williams, one of the funniest guys.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about his depression and anxiety and all, everything else he had, but they missed the biggest boat. He was dyslexic.
That's where it starts, right? That's the first thing that happens, right?
We're born with it. So we start struggling from day one. That book, 2 years old, 3 years old, you're not depressed. You don't have anxiety. So your depression kicks all that off. So, 30 to 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. But again, on the same breath, 50% of people in prison in the world.
There's no awareness of it. And I think that honestly, I can really say this is the first foundation. The Brent Sopel Foundation is the first foundation or first charity or first organization that's strictly about dyslexia that I've ever heard of. I'm sure there are out there.
There's a lot out there. But again, it goes back to, I've got a platform. Yeah. Your foundation, you don't get anywhere without a platform. And that's why I'm excited to win that Stanley Cup, is that I have a platform now to do this. This is my purpose. This is what I'm here for, is this. And it gives me a chance to talk to you guys. It gives, it gives
us a chance to talk to you.
Yeah. It's for these kids to look up, I got a few taglines, but the one thing is, you're not alone. I talk about it all the time. If I didn't win that Stanley Cup, people wouldn't take me as serious, as they do. So it's given me this platform, but raising money for dyslexia is the hardest thing I've ever done. That documentary, through all my channels, I think we're over 50,000 views, but I think we've got less than $10,000 in donations.
Okay.
Now, if you go to cancer, you've got millions.
Yeah.
It's just that embarrassment, and I'm trying to get corporate sponsorship. It's almost impossible.
It's because it's not directly life-threatening, right? It's indirectly.
But it is. So the CDC released stats. Suicides have tripled in the last 10 years in teenagers. 90% of the suicide notes left are dyslexic.
It's nuts that it's nuts that we look at it as you have to start somewhere, right? And I think you're starting in the right spot. And I think that there's gonna be a lot of kids out there, like you said, you have the avenue, right? You have the poll. And I think a lot of kids out there, they're going to see Brent Sopel and they're going to be like, well, yeah, I see the same thing. I know exactly what he's going through. I'm not crazy. I'm not behind anybody. I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb, whatever anybody has told me. And it's good that you're giving them a voice. I like this. I like it a lot. And I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate that you're putting your neck out there. You're putting it on the line for kids like Cade and kids like Jack, and it's good.
And they're everywhere, and that's the thing when you're talking about the numbers, 1 in 5. So you got cancer at 1 and 2. Some are hereditary. Next, dyslexia 1 in 5, and it's hereditary. Mental health is now at 1 in 5. That's not hereditary. So it's the second biggest thing in the world, and nobody will talk about it. So I'm just trying to be there for those kids and let them know, because if you don't have it, you don't understand it, and
exactly.
I can't, somebody's like, oh, I've got cancer. How am I going to feel? I don't know. I've never had it. I can't tell you. So if you don't have it, you're not going to understand what we go through on a daily basis and what we struggle with. And I talk about Flair the clipboard, more, I call you guys normal people. Be like,
thanks,
Flair the clipboard. What are you talking about? But the anxiety that I get, or we get, from that. So, there's a lot to it. And just taking it one day at a time here, trying to make a difference.
So Brent, you actually answered one of my questions when I was going to ask you kind of if you'd seen technology kind of influencing or making it harder for people with dyslexia, because you're spent more time writing down instead of just speaking, I find nowadays. And you kind of touched on that, which is awesome. I was just wondering, like, so for the foundation itself, do you guys have any initiatives coming up? Is there anything that you want to let people know about? Like, I know you've met with lawmakers in the past. Like, what's in the future for the Brent Sopel Foundation?
Yeah, obviously, dyslexics got big picture thinkers, so that's why I call the document Here to Change the World. And yeah, that's to be, in Parliament to change some legislation for dyslexics. And the foundation goal would be able to get every kid tested in North America. So we at least have an understanding of who has it and what kind of path we can put them on. So that's big picture. The problem is that I've got to educate the world before I can change it. So like today, you guys didn't understand a lot of those things. So how can I change something that you don't understand?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest thing is, I'm trying to raise that money so that I can travel around the world and get people to understand what it is. This conversation, obviously, like you said, kind of enlightened you. But if I didn't enlighten you, you wouldn't have changed anything.
Absolutely.
So there's a two-prong, it's a two-prong approach, to be there for every one of those kids, make sure that they know it, that they're not alone, and to educate and work with the government to try and change some things, for the kids, for the next generation. But there's testing involved, so there's a lot of great things that I have planned, but I'm trying to educate before I can change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Brent, man, I really appreciate you coming on. So it's the BrentSopelFoundation.org. Like you said, you've received up to $10,000 worth of donations now. So if we can do anything I'll be donating just out of your behalf because I was a fan.
And the crazy part is, when I say he might save somebody's life, people think, you're crazy. Not a dyslexics. You really don't know how badly we struggle. And the number one thing with dyslexics, we don't have self-esteem. That's why the suicides are high as it is.
Yeah.
So when you're not on the same level as your peers, how hard it is being a kid. You're grade age, you're cool, you just want to chill the chicks, but you can't read. Guess what? You feel about this big. So
absolutely.
Every dollar goes a long ways, for these kids, that I can connect with them and know that they're not alone. So and especially, on here, during this time there, a lot of people, a lot of parents have seen their kids struggle for the first time. They knew their kids struggled, but they, send them to school and they're at school struggling with the teacher. But to actually sit here and a lot of the e-learning and watching your kids struggle, it's heartbreaking. So, I thank you guys for allowing me on here and talk about it. And I could talk all day long because, the future of this country and the world is kids.
Absolutely. I mean, I could talk to you all day long, Soaps. If you want to come on again, we can just talk about hockey, man.
Anytime. I'll
do an episode just on your time with the Habs when you scored the playoff goal. You'll forever be in my good books just for scoring a playoff goal with the Habs. I mean, that's all.
Thank God. Whew. I'm in a lot of bad books.
And you know what? As of today, I don't know if I'm not going to speak for John, but Ali Vigneault is in my bad books. That's
absolutely.
As of today.
Brent, honestly, it was a pleasure. This is the highlight. I had a pleasure talking with you. I just wanted to point this out for everybody who's listening. Tax season's coming up. Donations are tax deductible. So feel free to donate. Help Brent out. Let's go. Come April time, you're going to thank yourself.
Absolutely. BrentSopelFoundation.org. Can they reach you? I guess social medias.
You can, if you go on the website, you can email me there or through social media. I'll always get back to you. It might not be, immediately, but I myself or the people who help me on the foundation, we always respond. We always get back there to helping. So your message is never lost. It'll always get here, and if we can help, we will.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brent. I appreciate it, buddy. John, again, as usual, you're awesome.
Thanks for coming on.
Have a good one, Brent. Appreciate it.
You too. Take care. You too.